Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, after 5 years together, planning to propose, he discovered his girlfriend cheating. Despite accepting his sex-neutral bisexuality, she lied about yoga classes and met another man. He gathered evidence, informed the man's fiancée, and orchestrated a dramatic breakup. Now, he's preparing to change his phone number and move to avoid her persistent calls. Now let's get into the story. My girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years, and I was planning on proposing to her before all of this happened. We met in college, and now that we've both graduated and have good jobs, it seems like it's the right time to take the step forward. She was practically everything I wanted in a partner. She was kind and funny, and she always put other people before herself. I have wanted to start a family practically my entire life, and she seemed like the perfect partner to do that with. She wasn't the first woman that I had been with, but I was the first guy she had been with. Just a little backstory about me, I've never really felt the drive to have intimacy that a lot of other men do. I see in popular media how it's almost a compulsion that a lot of guys have. I've always felt somewhat indifferent towards it. Through some friends, I've been able to come to the conclusion that I might actually be bisexual. I don't mind intimacy. I've had it many times, but it's normally something that I do just for the sake of a relationship. When my girlfriend and I first hooked up, she told me that she thought I didn't like her because I never made a move on her. I've never been the one to initiate anything because I genuinely don't think about it. When I told my girlfriend that I thought I might be ace, she was a little bit upset about it. She didn't know what it meant for our relationship if I didn't want to have intimate. I understood her concerns, and I told her that if she wanted to find someone else who could be more aggressive sexually, then I would support her. Of course, I told her we would be breaking up and we could continue being friends. After a long discussion, we decided that we wanted to continue our relationship. Again, I still had intimacy and I didn't have a problem with that. So our compromise was that she would just have to be more upfront about when she wanted it. I know this sexuality seems confusing, so just a brief explanation of it before moving on. I am a sex-neutral bisexual, meaning that I don't have any aversions to intimate. I just don't personally feel a need to have it. Some bisexuals are aromantic and don't want any relationships at all. Some, like me, still want to be in a relationship and have a partner. I'm stressing this here because I was very vocal about this after our conversation. I told my girlfriend that if she ever felt like this wasn't working out, I wanted her to tell me so we could move our separate ways. I didn't want her to feel like she was having to sacrifice a part of the relationship to be with me, but I wanted a monogamous relationship. I had no interest in opening anything up, so we could still continue our emotional relationship while she was sleeping with someone else. After I told her everything, we got back to normal pretty quickly. A couple of times a week she would initiate intimacy, and we would have it like we always did. Over the course of about 6 months, she slowly stopped initiating it. Again, I really didn't think about it much. There was a point while we were watching a television show together, and an intimate scene came on that the sudden realization hit me. I asked her if everything was okay, and she told me that it was. I was a little bit concerned when I realized we hadn't had intimate. I knew that it was something that my girlfriend thought was important, and she really enjoyed herself. I couldn't help but worry that she was getting that from somewhere else. I let the days pass, and she still hadn't done anything to initiate intimacy with me. Eventually, I asked her about it outright. She told me that she just hadn't really been in the mood, but assured me that there was nothing going on. I felt comforted hearing her tell me that outright. At least I felt that way until I saw a mark on her neck. It was something that she was clearly trying to cover up with makeup, but the collar of her sweater rubbed it off just a bit. It was clearly some kind of hickey. I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I just pretended like I didn't see anything. I knew I needed to try to figure out what was going on before she continued to lie to me. She had recently taken up a yoga class. And after doing some thinking, I realized that the dates kind of coincided with when we hadn't been sleeping together. I thought that if she were taking the time to cheat on me, that might have been it. So I waited for her to tell me she was going to yoga one evening, and I followed her there. I was right to suspect that she wasn't actually doing yoga because she met a guy at a bar. It was hard for me to make out who he was at first because he was facing away from the window, but as they left together, I recognized him instantly. He was a friend of hers that we would occasionally hang out with because he was her friend. Seeing them together wasn't dancing in itself. They could have just been grabbing a drink, but I didn't understand why she would lie about going to yoga. I needed to find something more concrete before I went to her with this. I followed them as they went back to why I figured was his apartment. While they were inside, I did a little digging on the guy since I didn't really know him too well. As I did, I remembered that my girlfriend had even been talking to me about how excited she was for his wedding. He had just gotten engaged to another woman. I really hoped that if she was cheating on me with anyone, it wasn't him. Knowingly sleeping with your engaged friend is a crappy thing to do. I couldn't get any information from watching his apartment, so I just went home and waited for her to get back. Before I could even ask her how her evening was, she started telling me about all of the yoga stuff she's been doing. She was lying to me completely. When she went to sleep, I went through her phone to see if I could gather any evidence. I went to their text messages, and I saw a lot of concerning exchanges. They had sent each other nude pictures. He told her that he would have never got me engaged if he knew she wanted him, and she talked about how she couldn't understand my sexuality. The tone of their messages felt very judgmental of me and very invalidating. It doesn't seem like it from this post, but having this realization has taken a toll on me. Hearing somebody that I cared about talk about it so flippantly was upsetting. I took plenty of screenshots, especially of the exchanges where he mentioned not wanting to get married, and I sent them to myself. I had no idea who his fiancée was, but after a little bit of research, I found out that she was a recent law school graduate and had just gotten a job at a local firm. I reached out to her to schedule a meeting, making it seem like I had a legal issue. Thankfully, she had one free consultation available, so I took that. When I met with her, I came clean about why I was really there. I explained to her how I knew her and I showed her the evidence that I had. She was broken up about it, but she thanked me for telling her before she ended up being legally bound to him for the rest of her life. She had always been concerned about his relationship with my girlfriend. She mentioned that it was obvious to her that they had some kind of feelings for each other, but since they were both in relationships, she didn't think anything would come of it. As I was driving home, I just kept thinking about how they were talking about me, and I didn't feel like telling the fiancé was enough revenge. I wanted to do something to really hurt them. Like I said earlier, I really was planning on marrying her. I had a ring and everything. My girlfriend loved the big romantic displays, so I figured I'd give her one. I knew that the man she cheated on me with was about to get dumped by his fiancé, and I wanted my girlfriend to have a similar experience. I took her out to a nice restaurant, and at the end of the evening, I paid the band to play her song. When it came on, she commented on it, and I told her I orchestrated it for the evening. I got down on my knee, and I started out pretending like I was proposing. She was very excited and smiling while crying. Everything about her reaction made it seem like she would have married me. If that was the case, why cheat on me? I stood up before I asked her the final question, and I told her that was what might have happened if I didn't found out she was sleeping with another man. Her face completely fell, and all of the people who were watching us with happy smiles immediately turned away. I explained how I knew everything, making no effort to keep my voice down. One of the staff at the restaurant actually had to escort us out because we were causing a scene. I broke everything off with my girlfriend after that and kicked her out of our apartment. She has messaged me countless times, begging me to give her another chance. She tried to explain her actions by telling me that she felt like it was my fault. I'll admit, a huge part of it might have been. I didn't even realize we weren't having intimacy until it had been weeks since we stopped. But I told her from the start that she should tell me if she wanted out. It seemed like she wanted to be with me while also sleeping with the other guy, and I wasn't okay with that. I ended up blocking her number, but she continues to call me from burner numbers that she downloads. I'm planning on changing phone plans to get a new number and moving out of my apartment so she won't know where I am. Today's second story. In this story, a couple married for 20 years faces a crisis when the wife's sister dies. Seeking new experiences, the wife suggests a hall pass to explore other relationships. Later, the husband discovers his wife's affair through texts and confronts her. Divorce proceedings follow, leaving the husband devastated and unsure of his future after being betrayed by the only woman he'd ever been with. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I have been together for 20 years. We met in our freshman year of high school, and we have been together ever since. She and I both lost our virginity to one another. We went to prom together, and we even went to the same college after graduation. We got married right after we graduated from college, and we settled down to start our life together. Having a family was always something we were looking forward to. So once we had good jobs, we decided to start. Fast forward about 11 years, and we have 2 kids. We own our own home, and we are on a fast track to retiring early, so we can travel and do all of the things we never had the chance to. I thought that we were living the dream life. All of that came crashing down when my sister-in-law was diagnosed with lung cancer. She was my wife's best friend, and she took it very hard. She was with her every step of the way while she was fighting as best as she could. But in the end, she passed away. It was a huge blow to the entire family, myself included. It's such a cliche, but she was just a beam of light in the world. My wife took it harder than anyone else. My sister-in-law was whom my wife would go to when she needed to talk about anything. They would go shopping together, and they knew everything about each other. I was there for my wife while she grieved the loss, and I helped her get over the worst time of her life. After about 6 months of mourning, my wife started to get back to herself. She had all of my sister-in-law's journals and her notebooks, and she read through all of them while she was grieving. I couldn't even begin to process the types of emotions she must have been feeling, so I just tried to be supportive and lend an ear when she needed it. One thing that got to my wife was feeling like she hadn't done anything with her life. Her sister was taken away too soon, and through the journal entries, my wife realized that her sister felt like she didn't get to do enough in her life. I guess when my wife read all of that, she thought that her sister-in-law would have wanted her to do the opposite. She told me that she had been inspired to start living. She wanted to travel, go skydiving, and just enjoy the life that she had while she had it. I wholeheartedly agree with it. That's why I had been working 60 hours a week since I graduated college, so we could try to retire early. Over the next few weeks, she started doing more things. For example, she started taking pottery classes because she'd always been interested in it. She had been teaching herself how to rock climb because she wanted to free climb, and she even scheduled a bungee jumping excursion for her and her son. She seemed to be leaning into this new lifestyle. I didn't think anything of it. I was happy for her because she was recovering from the loss of her sister. One night after she came home from the climbing gym, she was acting off. Before that, she had been very upbeat and excited about everything while she took on this new lease on life. After dinner, when the kids were in their rooms, she pulled me out to the patio where we shared a couple of glasses of wine and looked at the stars. Toward the end of our conversation, she brought up the possibility of both of us having a hall pass. For those of you that don't know, a hall pass in a committed monogamous relationship is a one-time opportunity for both of the partners to have intimate with someone outside of the relationship. I was completely shocked by what she had suggested. It felt like it came out of nowhere, so I asked her about why she was bringing it up. She assured me that she loved me, but she felt like she might have been missing out on a part of her life because she had only ever been with me. She tried to say it in a way where I wouldn't be hurt, but it was impossible not to feel horrible when she said that. I told her that I wasn't supportive of the idea. She and I had been married for 20 years, and I didn't understand why it was a problem all of a sudden. I didn't want to sleep with anyone else, and I wasn't okay with her sleeping with anyone else. We were about to go back inside, but I stopped, and I asked her if there was someone she had been interested in sleeping with. She was hesitant to tell me the truth, but after a few moments, she told me that there was another person who went to the climbing gym that she was attracted to. She told me that he had always been flirty, and recently he asked her out for drinks. I was assured that she said no, and that she would tell him that she was married, but I still went to bed that night with a sour taste in my mouth. It took a few days for me to come to terms with what she had suggested. I was unbelievably hurt by it, but after some time, I forgave her, and we carried on as if the conversation never happened. After a week or so, she told me that the climbing gym offered a class to start working outdoors and that she wanted to sign up for it. One Saturday, she went out early in the morning with the class. At least, that's what I thought was happening. Our daughter had been entering those years, where she started lying to us about where she was going so she could go to parties and hang out with friends we didn't approve of. So we told her to leave her location on Snapchat maps so we could verify she was where she said. That same afternoon, our daughter was supposedly going over to a friend's house, so I checked the maps to make sure she wasn't lying. Everything was good on our daughter's end, but I noticed that my wife's avatar was in the heart of the city. I was a little confused because I had been told that she was going to a park about 30 minutes outside of the city. I zoomed in on the location and saw that she was at a bar. I tried to rationalize it like she was just hanging out with some of the other people from the climbing gym after they got back from their climb, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut that I couldn't ignore. I remembered what she had said about the guy from her climbing gym, asking her to go out for drinks. I didn't think it was that far of a stretch to wonder if she was there with him. I was home alone in the bar that she was the only happened to be about a 15-minute walk from the house. So I grabbed the dog and we took a walk. I kept my eyes on the map every so often just to make sure she was still there and she wasn't leaving. When I got to the bar, I looked in through the windows and I saw my wife sitting at a table with a man. They were both leaning close together and smiling from ear to ear as they chatted. The man reached across the table and grabbed my wife's hand, and my wife let him. Of course, hand-holding isn't necessarily cheating, but it was an indication that maybe there was something more going on. I went home before my wife saw me there, and I waited for her to get back. The entire time I waited, I didn't know if I was going to confront her about it or try to dig around on my own. She came home, and before she even said anything to me, she went right to the shower. I tried to grab her to have a conversation, but she just told me that she was gross and sweaty from climbing. That solidified in my head that something happened while she was with that man. She had dropped her gym bag down near our bed, and I noticed that her phone was still inside. I pulled it out and looked through it to see if I could find any information about who that man was. I searched the name of the bar in her text messages, and I found a chat between her and an unsaved number. I scrolled back to the beginning of the conversation, which happened to be about a week before she asked me about the whole pass. I skimmed through the rest of the messages, looking for keywords that would indicate an affair. Eventually, I found a few exchanged pictures and some explicit messages. Then I saw the plans for them to get together at the bar. They even came up with a lie to tell me and his partner together. I had no idea who that guy was, but I was able to find out by looking through the climbing gym social media. They had posted a few pictures with some of the clients, and he was clearly in one. He was tagged in it and everything. I did some digging and found out that he was married with a newborn baby. I was disgusted by what I saw. Hurt doesn't even begin to describe the pain that I felt. I had been with my wife for 20 years, and she was willing to throw all of that away because she wanted to sleep with another man. I was furious, and I was so disgusted by the foul actions both of them had done. At the end of their message chain, with no context, was the name of a restaurant with a date and time. A week had passed since I discovered my wife was cheating on me, and I had come up with a plan to catch her in the act. While I was thinking about it, I realized that the wife of her affair partner deserved to know as well. When the day of the meeting was supposed to take place, I sent his partner's wife a dozen roses with the information for the restaurant on the card. I hoped that it would be a way to trick her into thinking he had a surprise planned for her. I waited outside of the restaurant, and I saw her head toward it. I followed her inside, and we both noticed our partners holding hands at the same time. She rushed right over to him and started yelling at him in front of everyone. My wife was shocked to see me, but she jumped up and tried to tell me that it wasn't what it looked like. Then I asked her to explain the text messages, and she went silent. I told her that I would be ending everything between us and that she could expect to see me in court. We spent the next 8 months in a divorce battle over what happened. The biggest issue that we had was custody. We both wanted primary custody of our children, but in the end, we were given joint custody. I was able to keep the house, and she was entitled to no spousal payment from me. Her affair partner was also divorced, and he was forced to pay child support and alimony to his ex. My ex and I only recently finished the divorce proceedings, and we're finally done with each other. I honestly don't know what to do from here. I had only been with one woman, and she stabbed me in the back, and I'm not sure how to move forward.